Justin, you next up.
Is this on? Okay. I did not bring somebody to click for me, so I'm going to have to click myself. Hadapt is a little bit different than I think some of the other companies here in the sense that we are more at the infrastructure layer. So we are storing and analyzing and managing massive amounts of data, and we're based on something called Hadoop. Now, I know we're at a big data event, but does everybody know what Hadoop is? Raise your hand if you know what Hadoop is. Okay, good. Thought I was in the right place. So a little bit of company history. We were founded in July of 2010. We actually spun out of the Yale Computer Science Department. So we began as research by a professor there named Daniel Abadi. I met him while I was in business school. I found his research fascinating, and we spun it out. And the basic idea was something called Hadoop DB, this idea of bringing together the performance and functionality of an analytic database with the scalability and flexibility of Hadoop, and really bringing them together. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. We raised $17 million in venture capital from Bessemer, Norwest, and Atlas, and we are based just up the street in Cambridge, Mass. The reason we started the company is because of this. So not only is data getting bigger, but it's also that variety. You know, people talk about the V's of big data, and that variety is one that we think is particularly important, especially the emergence of unstructured data and a desire by businesses to capitalize on that and analyze that in conjunction with their structured data. And how can you do that in one platform rather than having these separate silos and separate database systems to manage all of that data? In particular, existing technology, so if you think of traditional data warehousing, traditional relational databases, they don't scale to handle that volume of data. They don't perform well at scale, and they often can't handle unstructured data at all. So a lot of this has spurred on the evolution of Hadoop as an important technology. And what it allows you to do is stop throwing data away, first and foremost, so you can save everything and analyze it later, which is a big paradigm shift. One of our customers calls it the landfill. You could just dump everything there and figure it out later. It also allows you to do some more advanced analytics, so things like sentiment analysis and machine learning and creating recommendation engines and things, again, that you wouldn't typically do necessarily in a structured relational database. And then, of course, the elephant in the room is that you can also save a lot of money in the process of doing this, right? It runs on commodity hardware. It runs in the cloud. It is not buying a giant piece of metal that's millions of dollars that you have to wheel in. It runs effectively on anything. Having said that, there's a lot of challenges with using Hadoop. First and foremost, people associate with it a slow performance, that it's batch-oriented. It's something that you have to have a really smart guy write a program, make it run, and then come back an hour later to see the results. So that batch performance makes it very difficult for an analyst to really use it and use it interactively. Secondly, the fact that it doesn't allow you to use SQL, which is really the language of databases for the last 30 years, creates a skills gap between sort of the 1%ers and the 99%ers. The 1%ers being the people like Zainab probably, who actually know how to write a MapReduce job, who know how to write Java programs. And the 99%ers, which is the business analysts, the guys that are used to using Tableau and MicroStrategy, business objects, to work with that data set. So how can we bridge that gap? And then finally, ready-to-use analysis. Again, a lot of what people are doing in Hadoop is custom scripted sort of MapReduce jobs. And again, that's complicated and it's hard to use. So this is where Hadapt comes in. Effectively, we are trying to accelerate Hadoop into production, and that's what our customers often do. They may have been playing with Hadoop and using it in an experimental capacity, and there's some young 23-year-old kid who knows Hadoop or is really obsessed with it and is playing with it, and now it's time to move it into production. And in order to do that, you need to have interactive queries. You need to allow the analyst to run a query, see the results, run another query, do that iterative discovery process. You need to use SQL because that's really the language, again, that's been around for 30 years. So that allows you to bridge the gap to all of these other existing tools. It really avoids the need to have an army of programmers. For Facebook, it's okay. They can use Hadoop, at scale with 10 petabytes of data because they have an army of programmers. But if you are Sears or Fidelity or any mainstream Fortune 500 company, you really have a lot of SQL knowledge that's embedded in your organization. You want to allow them to be able to tap into this as well. You want to be able to integrate advanced analytics packages. One of the things that we have is something we call the Hadapt development kit. And what that allows you to do is actually take some of the more advanced capabilities of Hadoop, like let's say doing machine learning or building a sentiment model, and turn that into a SQL function. So you can have the data scientist or that brilliant person who knows how to write MapReduce jobs create new analytical functions and then expose them to the analyst as a SQL function. So again, kind of democratizing the access to the data by allowing the business analyst to use an interface and a language and tool sets like Tableau, for example, who's a partner of ours, to interact with that data. And then finally, in the process of doing all this, you're allowing the analyst to accelerate the time to analysis and reduce the costs overall. Because again, now you can store all of your data inside of Hadoop and bring those analytics to Hadoop rather than having to suck a small piece out and put it into a database to do your analysis there. These are just some examples of some of the use cases of our customers today. We have about a dozen customers today in production, and fraud detection, security, log file analysis, a whole host of use cases around trying to better understand customers on an individual level. We call that sort of customer behavior analysis at a high level. But companies, I think, all across the board are trying to do that, trying to market to individuals better and understand how can I improve and accelerate them through our funnel. So SaaS companies, internet companies, e-commerce companies, all trying to make sense of all this big data and getting frustrated as they try to use Hadoop. That's really our target market. So I think I will stop there and happy to take questions afterwards. Sometimes you have to.
Thank you.